Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the Greater Galactic Council. I am features writer Charlie Hall, and you have joined us today for Polygon's Friends List, which is our weekly, daily, actually, show where members of the staff get together to talk about the issues of the week as they present themselves. And frankly, there's not been a bigger issue in my week than the news about the Star Wars expanded universe, as well as the new cast that's been announced for the upcoming Episode 7 movie. But I wanted to invite my friend, Mr. David Tach, to help me try and understand this just a little bit more. How are you, David?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Charlie?
I'm good. I'm confused. I'm somewhat saddened. I wanted to bring you onto the show really to help me understand this because I've got this book here. And this is one of my favorite books, and I've got this lighter.
Wait.
Basically, what I think I need to do is I need to burn this book, right?
No.
No?
No. You don't. We don't burn books here. You're thinking of Nazi Germany.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I play a lot of World War II games. So, all right, walk me back then. What's going on?
So I guess the news. What first hit last week was Lucasfilm's answer to a problem that they had. And that was, now that they are making canonical episodes 7, 8, and 9, movies, they had a problem with the Star Wars universe, which for the last few decades, has spent a lot of time writing stories in comics, in novels, in games, and elsewhere about the stuff that happened after Return of the Jedi, which, depending on what interview you read and when it was given, episodes 7, 8, and 9 were always intended to be made, never ever intended to be made, might have been discussed over dinner at one point with Gary Kurtz, but they're now a real thing. And my understanding for years and years was that part of the reason Lucasfilm and George Lucas himself allowed so much stuff to take place after Return of the Jedi was, by and large, because he wasn't going to make 3 more episodes post the original trilogy. Well, surprise, they are making it. So what do you do with all of that stuff that's been written?
Well, obviously, you go to my friend Timothy Zahn, and you say, Timothy, I'd like to make volumes 1, 2, and 3 of the Heir to the Empire series a fantastic piece of fictional work, an adaptation of an already classic universe done by a skilled master science fiction author. We'd like to put these into what they call the motion pictures, right?
Well, I mean, that was certainly one option, but it wasn't the option they chose.
Option. You talk about this like it's already decided. All right.
In fact, it has. It has been.
Right.
So yeah, that's the deal. They had to figure out what to do with this body of work that exists. I mean, I say post Jedi, and I think I've probably said it 5 times already, but it's not just post Jedi. It's pre everything. They had to figure out what to do with the universe. The answer is really that they. So I should explain also to people who are not quite as nerdy as me, a guy who has followed this stuff for years, that that body of work outside the films has been called the expanded universe. So the question was, what are they going to do with the expanded universe? And the answer is shuffle it to the side. That's basically the view from 30,000 feet. The bottom line is that Lucasfilm created a story group, is what they're calling it, that is in charge of keeping the stories of the Star Wars universe straight. And one of, I guess you could say, one of the first official acts of the story group was to turn what was called the expanded universe into the Legends universe. So they're not exactly saying it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not unpublishing Heir to the Empire. It's still always going to be available. But if you buy a copy of Heir to the Empire today, it will be under the Legends banner.
It will
I
be
think
filled with lies, is what you're saying.
is effectively what is going to happen, right? That's basically it. They are maintaining that aspect of the Star Wars universe, but those who are behind the new films are not beholden to it. So
Okay.
it is a fairly clever way of having your cake and eating it too, I think. It's like I said, they're not going to disavow these things. They're not going to throw them away, but don't expect Grand Admiral Thrawn in the new trilogy. Oh,
No
that's not,
talent.
and that's also, by the way, not to say that it won't or couldn't happen, or that they couldn't pluck things out of the expanded universe and pick and choose. But the story group, whatever happens, is going to be overseeing whatever Star Wars becomes. We'll have to wait. We'll have to wait a while. Well, actually, I think there's a new animated series coming to a Disney Channel, not the Disney Channel.
Right.
And that's part of the new official canon. So, short version of a long story, extended universe is Legends, and that's shuffled to the side, and there's this new official canon that consists of all 6 movies that George Lucas, put out. The Clone Wars, which was a surprise to me. I didn't realize that was canon, although it may not have officially been canon, but the announcement said it's the films and the Clone Wars series that George worked so hard on that are becoming the basis of the canon that will build off of that. It's not a super huge surprise to me because I've always known that the EU. Oh man, that's pretty nerdy. I'm abbreviating it now. The expanded universe was never really supposed to be canon. Like that was, I think if you thought that, you were mistaken. And Lucasfilm has clarified that that's exactly the case.
Well, I don't necessarily want to go back to the historical record and harangue you over the details of how those episodes 7, 8, 9 were formally gifted to Mr. Timothy Zahn. But I do want to get to the point that I was thinking of while you were talking there, and that is, it's more than just these novels, right? I mean, there are almost 30 years worth of comic books, role-playing tabletop games, adventure products like video games, console games, PC games, all of that stuff that was part of the expanded universe. They're just getting rid of all of it?
No, they're just putting it aside. I think that stuff will still exist. It's not like they're going to. They haven't announced that, because this is not official canon, we're shutting down the Old Republic or anything like that. It's not, the games and the novels and the stuff like that existed still exists, still in print. You can still find it, but it's not. You can't read Heir to the Empire and believe that that's what actually happened. I think I may have said something similar to this 5 minutes ago, but I think the Legends banner it lends a lot to what they intend to do with it, which is these are legends in the universe, not gospel stories of the universe.
Okay, so kind of like there are 2 roads, right, that the Star Wars universe is going on. There's the road that we've been walking down for a long time after Return of the Jedi, but now we're starting on this new path. So where is it taking us? What are they telling us about this new journey that we're on? Any new news on the horizon?
Well, the what we know is very little, but we do know enough as of yesterday that the cast was announced for Episode 7.
Okay, now I saw this fly by in my Twitter feed. I'm very serious. I don't quite know what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
So Star Wars is a sci-fi universe created by George Lucas.
Right.
consists of several films.
Clear.
The next film that they're going to make, directed by J.J. Abrams,
Mm.
is Episode 7, with a title we don't know
Okay.
as of yet.
So this is Captain Lens Flare.
Right,
He's doing
correct.
Episode 7, and is going to come along the new story path of the
Yeah,
Star Wars universe. It's going to
yeah.
come directly after Return of the Jedi.
It's going to be the next official thing, I guess, after
Right.
Return of the Jedi. But directly is probably the wrong word, because they announced yesterday that many of the characters from the original trilogy, that is, the late 70s, early 80s Star Wars movies, they're coming back. So Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, Harrison Ford, Han Solo, they will in fact be in this in Episode 7. And there is a beautiful black and white picture of everybody, including and there's a ton of new cast. There's a beautiful black and white picture of everybody sort of sitting around, with what appears to be scripts in their hands, talking about talking about a new Star Wars movie with Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia. Yeah, it's So that's the news last week was, okay, we've kind of hit the reset button, and the news this week was, here's why, like, we're doing this stuff, and these are the people we're doing it with. So, Episode 7, December 18th, 2015. J.J. Abrams directing. Lawrence Kasdan, the guy who wrote Empire, is co-writing the script, and they're bringing back a bunch of awesome old people. Then the larger question becomes, right? I think what in the world does this mean for games, too? Because this is more than just like you said, Star Wars is a property that is far, far larger than the movies, and because I'm nerdy enough to look into these things, I know that Lucasfilm has long had a process for making the stuff, making a cohesive universe. They might have 5 people writing books that take place in the Star Wars universe, and they have they've always sort of kept that stuff in line. And the final word on these things used to be George Lucas, because he created it and he owned the company.
Mm-hmm.
And now that he's gone, it's the story group, which they were very clear, like, will oversee the Star Wars narrative in all media. So these new games that are coming from whomever, certainly EA, they have an exclusive multi-year licensing deal to produce Star Wars games. That stuff is all going to work. They're certainly going to be working with this story group to figure out what they can and can't say, I guess. It'll be interesting to find out what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, how closely they have to follow what. But that all remains to be seen, because this is the very beginning of the future of Star Wars.
Remarkable. What a awkward position for those development teams, though, that are working on. They've got to be working on some games right now. So here they are, toiling away at who knows what, and lo and behold, the phone rings, and it's George Lucas in the other end going, by the way, we have a couple announcements we wanted to let you guys know about. Maybe we'll give you like a day before we tell everybody else. What an unusual situation that must be for those development teams. Like, okay, throw out most of what you've been working on. Let's wait now for them to make up their mind and let us know about the story stuff. Or maybe they've already got that in hand. Maybe somewhere in an office in EA, they've got an early draft of this script, and they're pouring it over, and they're thinking their thoughts about what games they could possibly make out of it. It's cloak and dagger of the highest order stuff.
Right. It's a potentially staggering logistical nightmare, right? Because you've got these people who are working on the movie. They're going to start shooting evidently in a couple of weeks, so that script's finalized. You have to assume that. I think it's a safe assumption that there's going to be some sort of tie-in game from EA for this. So that details about that have to go through the story group to EA, and then they have to work within the confines of whatever that is. Or, if EA wants to make something like a Star Wars 1313, which was this LucasArts game before LucasArts closed, was a LucasArts game that they showed some gameplay footage. It was a sort of a third-person shooter. Got a lot of people very interested, but that game suffered and died when, I think, in the transition, although it sounds like, if reports are to be believed, that it was sort of dying as it was still in development. But if they wanted to make something like that, which exists in the universe, in the broad Star Wars universe, like I said, as I understand this, they have to go through the story group, and then, like another layer of Inception deep, the question becomes, we know that this legacy, or legends, not legacy, legends silo exists, right? They've siloed all that stuff there. Does that mean that that no one will produce anything more in the legacy legends universe? I'm going to say legacy wrong.
Well, why would you want to, right? Like, here's all this hype for this new timeline, this new continuity with all the old stars coming along for the ride. Why would you be writing anything about Jarus, Saboth, and Mara Jade, right?
Right. I guess it would be for the people, who enjoyed them and wanted to see more. Like, maybe there's a third Thrawn trilogy out there, or second and a half, or whatever it's been. Timothy Zahn, so he wrote Heir to the Empire, like you said at the beginning. Widely regarded as the guy who not just invigorated the expanded universe, but really rekindled interest in Star Wars in I guess it would have been the early '90s. After it was huge, and then it got small, and then it got big again. And the first thing, I think it's widely recognized, that made Star Wars big again was Timothy Zahn writing Heir to the Empire. And it's that book is pretty remarkable in that it picks up after Jedi and feels very much. Because this is who I am, I reread the 20th anniversary edition. Oh, okay, so it was about 20 years ago.
It was 91. This says the copyright date on my book here. 1991 this thing came out. I can't believe that. I was 11.
So I reread the 20th anniversary edition which the deal was there were just tons and tons of citations and footnotes and endnotes from people at Lucas, from Timothy Zahn, talking about how that all developed. And you can certainly see how he would. At one point, he talked about how, I believe, he had he had outlines and had to present them to LucasArts, and they said you could do this or you couldn't do this, or they had ideas. So I don't think that the process itself, whatever happens in novels, in games, whatever, seems like it would be fundamentally different. It's just there's going to be a new canon, and it remains to be seen whether anybody's going to write for that old canon, which would basically be writing for guys who reread Heir to the Empire, 15 years after they first read it, or 20 years after they first read it, because that would be, I guess that's the only good reason, or the target audience.
And they've invested so many, they've invested so much time and so much energy in all these different properties of the expanded universe, though. I would say that it would be a huge misstep for them, after spending all this time, to officially make it part of the canon, to throw it to the wayside, except for the fact that they've got all of the original stars on board for this episode 7 that you're telling me now. If that were not the case, I would say that bring all of it with you, bring all of those past fans with you, and let's keep the train rolling. But now that you're telling me that we got Carrie Fisher involved and Anthony Daniels involved and all of these folks from the original movies involved, what an exciting opportunity to really let J.J. Abrams work his magic here and properly reboot this franchise.
Right. And that's exactly what they're doing. And I guess the best way that I can think to say it is that there's going to be that there's going to be a new expanded universe, right? It's just not going to be the old one. It's Lucasfilm is going to. It's not again. It's not like they're throwing away the expanded universe, the Legends universe. They're still on top of that, still maintaining it. They're just also maintaining something brand new too. And I mean, just think of the nightmare it would be if you were J.J. Abrams, to sit down and try and write a story in Star Wars. And it was like, well, turns out if you want Luke in this, he has to have a wife. Han and Leia have to be married. They must have twins.
Force-sensitive twins.
Right, who also have to be in the movie. Like, they don't get to start. They would never get to start with a clean slate, right? Because they've always got something before it. But the difference is they either have 6 movies and a TV show that really doesn't have to do with much, that would happen after Jedi, or they have 6 movies, a TV show, 4 million novels, 800,000 comic books, tabletop games, video games. Like, it just was unwieldy, and it's hard to imagine that there was any solution to this that wasn't this exact solution.
All right, so real talk, Dave.
Okay.
Now that we've wiped the slate clean, now that there's no more LucasArts, now that it's a next generation of consoles, next generation of gamers here, what are the Star Wars games that you want to see come back first?
TIE Fighter?
TIE Fighter.
X-Wing?
I think we're both on the same page here. A little TIE Fighter, a little X-Wing action here.
Oh, what's that?
This would be the TIE Fighter Advanced right here. This is my personal collection. A little dusty. I hit him with the air gun before we went on the air. But I think that with all this Star Citizen stuff going on with Chris Roberts kind of reinvigorating the space sim genre, I think it's a natural. If they're not grinding away on a new TIE Fighter right now, I think they're crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly, like you said, Star Citizen shows that there's interest. They just passed 43 million, 45 million, something insane.
Yeah.
And they just keep making money. Like, there are players out there who obviously want to play those kinds of games. How many there are that is up for debate, but that certainly is a test case. Seems to indicate that there are plenty. The rest of the Star Wars games, I don't know. It's a spotty history, I mean, there were some good stuff. There was some not so great stuff. Was it Shadow of the Empire, which was the N64 game that had the greatest first level of any video game ever, and then the worst every other level ever?
Which was this first level? I don't remember this one.
It was you were in a snow speeder on Hoth. And oh god, and like we're talking 96, 97, yeah. Something like that.
Well, then there's that ponderous level where you're actually going through the Hoth base, though, too, and that was it was not a good time.
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember much after it. I remember being on a train at some point. But here's the deal, right? With Star Wars, I think it's a really interesting universe. I think it's a fun universe, and I think if you put smart people in that universe, you can come up with a lot of interesting stories. But the reverse is also true. If you put some not so great people in charge of stories, and sometimes the smart people and the not so great people are the same people, decades apart. But the universe is interesting and it's exciting, and the reason that Star Wars, I think, endures is because it is a very interesting universe. And now there are opportunities to to make a lot of good new stuff. You know, Amy Hennig from Naughty Dog left and went to EA, and like her plus Star Wars, like the creative director and writer of the Uncharted series put on Star Wars sounds pretty good to me. Like, you know, like I said, it's a universe that's a lot of fun to play in with, you know, blasters and lightsabers and space battles and things like that. And that putting smart people in charge of that sounds pretty good to me. And the video game side of that equation, aside from, I guess, really the MMO space, hasn't been super, and even the casual space, I guess, like with Tiny Death Star and stuff like that, really hasn't. Everybody always seems to want a Star Wars game, but nobody has produced the Star Wars game anybody wants for a long time, I think. So there's a lot of potential there. And Lucasfilm has certainly laid the foundation for how that's going to work, at least narratively.
Well, I think that I was initially pretty cranky at the news that the expanded universe was getting pushed to the side. But, you know, kind of afterward, we kind of talked through it. I think you've helped me down off the ledge, Dave. I'm going to put the lighter away.
Oh,
I'm going to
so happy.
I'm going to tuck my copy of Heir to the Empire and my CDs for Shadows of the Empire and whatnot into a very special place on the shelf, and show them to the kids years from now and say, once there was a time when the galaxy far, far away was a little different than it is now. But I don't know. I think that they're doing things right, and I'm excited to see where this goes. So I don't know. Can we pre-order some tickets for 2015 now for episode 7? You and me, some popcorn. You want to do it up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Listen. This is my next big thing. This is what I'm most excited about in the world. So I'm going to start eating healthier. You know, keep going to the gym. I just want to ensure. And like take off the week of the 18th, 2015, and you know, just be there. I don't know. I probably won't do this again because I was a slightly younger guy, but the day. Don't tell anybody I said this. It's just between you and me.
Okay.
I saw episode 1 at midnight, at noon, at 4 o'clock, and then I believe at 9 o'clock on opening day. So like, I kind of like Star Wars a little. And I'm excited to see where it's going in all formats. So let's go see it together.
I'm in, dude. Let's make it happen. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here on the Friends List, and we will talk to you soon. We're out.